Jim Joyce, happy Wednesday.
Happy
We're
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah, for our guests will I think realize why you're saying that, which is fantastic. Also, I feel like we're both in the same uniform today. I just
Yeah, I
noticed.
kind of thought I would do a bit of a Eugene, a Eugene
All
lookalike
right.
contest. I got some new
Um,
pat wall.
oh, amazing. More patents. I love it.
Exactly.
I'm gonna take screenshots of it all and then zoom in and see what we can, but anyway. Um, Exciting news. I was on the fence, man, like with health.
Yeah.
And I just had, I think, too much FOMO. So I'm coming in. I'm coming in. I don't know. Are you
You'll be at
planning to
health.
be there? Yeah, I'll be at health.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. All right.
I'm getting my kind of doing my reps, getting my exercise in before I go so I can survive the fire hose of
Exactly.
of
Um,
opportunities.
yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to being parched from talking so much. So therefore, make sure you hydrate well, everybody. That health.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then last thing before we let our guest in real quick, just a big, big shout out because he really got us started, Mr. Dan Kendall. So today was a kickoff at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Health Podcast Summit. So there's
Okay.
a whole agenda itinerary. I think it's today and tomorrow. Uh, we'll
Awesome.
we'll add comments to the show. Whoever can tune in, the stuff will be recorded and you can peruse it later if anybody is interested in launching a podcast or
Yep.
being on one. Again, the
Yeah,
audience is
Dan's our
wide.
Dan's our, our kind of podcast mentor. He got us off the
He
ground.
really is. He really is.
Right.
We're on the
Event.
Health Podcast Network. We're on in his Megapath account. So all good. Anyway, with this, I'm gonna let Jeff in.
Excellent.
And therefore, I think Jeff, as you're joining us here, Jim made a funny before we let you in, saying this is a Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. You knew it was
We
So,
just do
coming.
it. Jim Joyce.
oh, you do. You know what? If I ever not up for doing this, I think we're nearly. I
Right?
mean, we're there
We
here.
we're if now if I can start doing some handstands and some pull-ups, maybe I can
It,
Exactly.
it,
replicate you a little more closely.
The good thing is I don't do them on the shot, though that gives me a whole other idea.
Yeah,
But anyway.
I tell you,
Oh
I
well,
get these things on my TikTok of healthy Eugene, and it's awesome. You're doing a great
that's
job.
fantastic.
I
Thank you,
love it.
thank you. I
You can do a Eugene, you can do a muscle up.
getting there, all of
Getting
it,
there.
getting
Okay.
there. Muscle is define muscle, but I anyway. Well, listen, for all of our millions of listeners and viewers, welcome to the shot. And why don't you take us through a journey, Jeff? Like, personal, professional,
Yeah,
wherever you want to start. We'll,
sure.
Take
Well,
us in the
first,
time machine.
thanks for having me on. I've known you guys for quite a while, and it's great to finally be able to connect and be on this. So my story is it. There's no way I could have painted the picture looking forward. I can only do it looking back,
Hmm,
connecting the dots of how I've ended up where I am. But I grew up in small
Yeah.
town Minnesota. Um, uh,
we
yeah,
love Minnesota.
We have like
Ryan Felice,
70% of
John
our guests.
Brownlee. We got all kinds of Minnesota
And we
connections.
got more coming. We
Yeah,
just we're
It
just so
like it
connected.
yeah,
bring the
yeah.
heat, bring the heat.
So grew up in small town Minnesota. My mom and dad still live in that town. My dad worked for the University of Minnesota in the Ag Extension Service, so he worked advising farmers on estate planning and taxes and
Another gopher, another gopher.
exactly. My mom's a U of M grad also, and stayed at home with us kids and did a lot of volunteering. Um, but they're both gophers. I was involved in 4-H, which you guys have a global audience. I don't know if anybody. It's sort of a club for, it's largely kids in rural areas, but you get to do everything from show animals to speak in public. Um, Develops leadership skills and public speaking and a lot of really valuable things. But for me, it allowed me to travel. And the reason that I bring it up is that was pretty influential. I got to travel the US a fair bit, and then I got to go to Moscow in 1989 on an exchange. And
Wow.
that sort of kid coming from small town Minnesota to go and travel to then the Soviet Union in 1989 on an exchange just opened my world.
Jeff, maybe we crossed paths. My parents immigrated in '89, and from Odessa, we had to fly to Moscow and fly to JFK. So we probably saw each other when
We
we're,
might have. We might have. Maybe they mixed us up. You never know.
At the time, maybe not.
At the
But
time,
anyway,
I had hockey hair at the time. So and then I went to a small liberal arts college in Minnesota, Concordia College, majored in Russian business and international relations, went back to Russia in 91, 93, 94, and 94, multiple times when I was in school for various study programs and work. And then went into insurance for 5 years, did insurance underwriting for in property and casualty. Again, none of this necessarily makes a ton of sense, but then went to graduate school at the University of Minnesota. This is where I became a gopher, got my MBA at the University of Minnesota, and really caught the sort of the venture and
What year was it? What year was it?
I was there 99 to 2001.
Okay. Were you like after this casualty insurance kind of Russian 4-H career, were you shocked by the MBA?
No, I was I really wanted to get my MBA because I wanted to switch careers. I wasn't being insurance and being in small sort of in Iowa and Illinois wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to get more into the entrepreneurial startup venture space, and this gave me a chance to do that. So was part of the founding team of a semiconductor manufacturing company during that time in grad school, sort of a part-time deal, and then I had a work study in the entrepreneurship and venture office where I got to run a business plan competition and some other things like that. So great sort of cutting my teeth, learning.
diving right in.
Right, diving right in from both perspectives, understanding what the venture community was looking for and trying to do a startup. Graduated with my MBA and then made another shift and got a job doing corporate partnerships and development at Best Buy. The big retailer, spent 8 years there. Loved it. Super fun place to be when you're in your late 20s, early 30s. Got to do a lot of fun things, work with great people, and got married, and we started having a family at that point. And this is critical to the story. Two of my two oldest both had some health issues, and we ended up spending a lot of time at the Children's Hospital here in Minnesota.
Which one?
Children's of Minnesota. So the main one, not the university one or the orthopedics one. They're both great also, but we spent a lot of time there. My daughter has a congenital heart defect, and so we were there for months with her in those first couple of years, and we started volunteering. My wife and I both started volunteering. My daughter's great, by the way, but we both started volunteering and got to know the leadership team, and they eventually said, hey, would you come over and do corporate development for us and do these partnerships? So I had an opportunity to leave Best Buy on great terms and join Children's. Spent 8 years there, did some amazing partnerships with Best Buy, Target, UnitedHealth, 3M, sort of picked the big Minnesota companies. We got them involved. Yeah.
When just going back to Best Buy, because it's so cool. Like, so what kind of I always think Best Buy, like, it's for me, it's the best place to go and play with tech. Like it's like, right now, like you go in and you can kind of, of like that experience
and talk to the Geek Squad.
The Geek Squad.
Exactly.
But like, so what kind of deals what kind of corporate deals were you doing at Best Buy?
So we did when I joined, this was still narrowband internet days. So the dial-up internet, we were selling a lot of dial-up internet. Then we started selling, back when Netflix was, you mailed in the red envelopes and got the DVD in the mail, we were selling subscriptions. So I was doing a lot of partnerships in that subscription space.
Yep.
And then I was asked to help design some stores and be on a team that was doing some sort of on the edge design. So we did a boutique store outside of Chicago that was focused on sort of young gamer types, and really high-end technology. And then I started doing things in the sort of the flip of the high end. We started doing some outlet stores. We were putting up pop-up outlets in different malls and trying to figure out how to sort of replicate the almost like a Costco or an Aldi sort of center of the store surprise model with some of our closeouts. So it was a great time to sort of be innovating in retail. Amazon was coming in really fast at that point.
So you had to move quick and do a bunch of these deals.
We did. Yeah.
And for our 20-something audience, yes, Netflix, I still remember, had to mail this stuff in return.
Yes.
It's kind of crazy to think about it, right? But but anyway.
What's the trick? What's the trick in designing a store?
This is a theme that I would say carries through all of this. Really understand what the problems what is the problem you're trying to solve? What is it that their needs are? And so when you get really clear on what is that need, then you get laser focused on how to solve that and how to delight them during the experience. And at the high end, people wanted really exclusive sort of status technology. We were importing like limited edition phones from Japan that you couldn't get anywhere else because that's what that customer wanted. And at the other end, we were trying to do really cheap entry level stuff that anybody could come in and get a flat panel TV for $100 or sort of really trying to understand those needs. Eugene, you mentioned Geek Squad, and I'll just highlight this as one of probably the greatest thing that I was able to do at when I was at Children's was, again, I understood, I lived there. I knew what challenges there were when you wanted to sit by the bedside and work, or you needed to pay your bills, or you had a child who needed to stay connected to their classroom. And we got Best Buy involved to the point that they actually put a Geek Squad precinct in the hospital and provide free service to free support to patients and families. We did that 17 years ago. And it's still there to this day. And Best Buy, they've served hundreds of thousands of patients and families. Best Buy still donates all the time and labor. But really sort of a great way to support for a big company and a not-for-profit hospital to partner.
Well, and multiple iterations, right? I mean, Best Buy invested heavily into healthcare, right? I think it was Current Health, I want to say, that was spun out as Best Buy Health, right? I mean, I don't know where it all stands now.
There were multiple iterations. There was a store even before that the company did, that sort of a boutique in one of the suburbs here. They've tried a lot of things in healthcare.
So I interrupted you. Sorry, you were getting your job at Children's.
So was at Children's for 8 years, did corporate partnerships, then did some innovation, started doing a little bit of venture investing and sort of partnering with startups there. And then had the opportunity to go and join a company called Savvy Sherpa that was sort of a boutique innovation group that was being acquired by UnitedHealth at the time. And so I knew that we were going to be, when I joined as a venture lead, and we were acquired by UHG. We became United Health Group Research and Development, and then eventually became Optum Labs. And so there I was really in the heart of sort of doing more corporate venture and product development. My portfolio was medical conditions, so immunology, oncology, diabetes, mental health, and worked with amazingly smart people there. Really got a lot of exposure to digital health at that point. This was let's see, 2019, 2018, 19. So early days of Pear and Achille and a lot D-Thera, a lot of the OGs in the space. And we were talking to them about, coverage and patient engagement and all of those really critical things.
Now,
Was there
Jeff, and
for
I'm
4
sure
years. Yeah.
we'll touch on it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
in the remainder of your career to date. But when you look at United, right? I mean, to me, United was always described as like, 1,000 different boats that are just, yes, swimming kind of the same way, but there's still 1,000 different boats. And when you are in that corporate function and R&D, because you think R&D is typically kind of devices, manufacturing involved, DTX from a software perspective, but you don't think of United as an R&D shop, right? It's broadly speaking, premiums on the other side, payouts, and MCR ratios. I mean, I've oversimplified, but what was it like to sort of navigate the 1,000 votes or pull them in, or like what were some of the challenges, right, around that, or the fun parts around it, right? I mean, herding cats, some people love it, right? So
I think the key, it is, as you said, it is a there are hundreds of businesses with leadership teams that are very focused on their P&L, that want to control their data. And one of the things we were trying to do is pull all that data together and put it to good use, to try and uncover insights and problems that we could then go and build business cases around, and either invest or build products that we could then pilot and scale and learn really quickly.
That sounds easy.
What?
Piece of cake.
That sounds really easy.
Yeah, and in a place with 300,000 employees. The key, we had really strong executive support at the time, and that cleared the path in a lot of ways. I think it also, being in a large publicly traded company, and this will tie to Otsuka when I talk about that, you are subject to the whims of the market, and a bad down quarter and funding gets tight, and a good quarter, and you've got the room to go and do things. But when you're in an innovation role or doing venture, and you're talking about 5 to 8 to 10-year timeframes, that can be challenging. If you're not producing in the short term, it gets to be it can create challenges for the longevity of your programs and your team.
Sure. So you're then pulling I mean, it sounds like a great, like, just experience to try to pull all these different divisions and data and get insights out of them. Did it have a cool name, the project?
Well, we had a lot of projects that we were working on. I mean, we were the R&D group, and then we were Optum Labs. I was working on very specifically projects in things like rheumatoid arthritis, trying to bring some new digital tools, and some different disease tracking to that. We were doing a lot of
the spending was going through the roof, right?
This was peak Humira spending. Before Keytruda sort of took over, and now all the GLP-1s took over. But Keytruda was the biggest line item in the pharmacy spend, I believe.
At that stage, wow.
Yeah, and so we spent a lot of time working on care models and bringing digital and bringing data into that. We did some similar things in oncology with biomarkers and early diagnostics, doing some work around in diabetes, mental health. We were doing a lot of work, but it was really focused on sort of that precision. How do you allow the data to help you drive tests and experiments that are fail fast, fail quickly, learn, and then ideally scale. And when you've got that many patients and that many consumers, scaling quite quickly to become $1 billion business, which was the numbers there are really compelling when you find something that works.
Yeah.
Awesome. So was there 4 years, then left and went to Otsuka. Was at Otsuka for 4 years. Great organization, sort of one of the things couple things drew me there. One, great
Sorry,
team
did you have
on
to go
mental
through
health.
training on how to pronounce
Yeah.
Otsuka? When in
You
your
know,
first day, like orientation
yeah.
day, it's like you must say Otsuka.
Yeah.
It took about 6 months and a lot of
Okay.
conversations, but I finally found somebody who said the family pronounces it Otsuka.
Otsuka.
So if you go back to the family, it's Otsuka, not Otsuka, but Otsuka. Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of has a Russian kind
Yeah.
Otsuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Very Japanese
the
company.
second part of it
Yeah.
wouldn't sound like a good way to name anybody, but
Yeah.
for a Russian speaking audience, but
Yes. It's not
all right,
ski, it's
sorry, sideway, because I always like every time, like I think when
Otsuka.
you
But I didn't know
started
that.
there.
I've been talking about this company forever. I didn't. It's Otsuka.
that's how I was taught
It's
it.
big news.
But you'll find executives who say it very differently
It's
there
big
too.
news. This
So
is big
Yeah.
news.
Well, honestly, I mean, I spent time at what we Americans know as Bayer, but
yeah.
it took me also like 6 months. Bayer.
Yep.
Bayer.
Yep.
Like I
Bayer.
mean, yes, that's the German pronunciation, but I just never, like as American coming into this, it's like, okay.
But so
Anyway, back to
Otsuka,
you.
so that was doing a lot of digital health
Digital
investments. So
health.
they were pioneering. So you were brought in.
Yeah. I was brought in to help build a corporate venture capital program there and help do the digital investments. So we were within the pharma team at Otsuka, but focused very specifically on digital health. And we had the partnership with Click that will ultimately resulted in the launch of Rejoin. We did investments in the maternal health, maternal wellness, and mental health space. We did some investments in biomarkers. We invested in a digital therapy that was trying to help people who are having suicidal thoughts and ideation. So we were doing some really interesting things. We ended up doing some M&A in that. I ended up doing some M&A in that role. Very different than United Health Group in that it's a Japanese company that's been around for 100 years. And one of the things that drew me there is they have patience. And their leadership team was very steady, particularly in Japan, and the Japanese expats. They've been there since they were young in their careers. When they made a decision to be in digital health, they were going to stay there.
Wow.
And it gave you the runway to actually try some things, take a little more risk, always be focused on learning very quickly and iterating through to the next successful thing. But you had to be learning. You couldn't be sort of sitting on things, but really a great company from that perspective, and learned a lot
Did you go to Japan?
space. No, as I was doing my exit interview, which they'll talk about this, but no, that was my biggest regret. I never got to go to Japan.
Wow,
we have
that's
to plan.
crazy.
We got to plan some kind of Japan. Have you been to Japan?
I have, yeah, just Tokyo. And also like I think it was like a wild, 72 hours in and out kind of thing. But
Yeah,
I do remember
72 hours with Health Excel.
I do remember calling my family saying, "Hey, we always say New York is the city that never sleeps." Holy crap, right? I mean, and there was these like Don Quixotes, like stores with a bunch of useless stuff in it. So I just, it was a wild 72 hours.
We're trying to organize a kind of a digital health tech or some kind of summit in Tokyo. So we got to get you on the list. Yeah, that idea is
right. Yeah. I've gone deep down the rabbit hole of the Japanese 7-Elevens and how great their egg sandwiches are, and like all of the wonderful things you can get there. So yeah.
Wait, I don't think our audience knows, not that this is like a big deal. I actually took for 1 year in high school Japanese, just 1 year.
Really?
And I went to RefinedScience in New York, right? Bronx, and the school was difficult. Yeah, it's like IEO, kakekikoku, but watashi wa Eugene-san. So that's pretty much all I know. But the reason, just like, so side note on it, but then if my sophomore year, because Bronx Science was difficult as heck, I pretended I didn't know Russian and I took Russian instead. So to get good grades to bump up my average. So just, side note for our audience, but back to you, Jeff.
That's that's great. That's a good use of your resources.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, Jeff, but in this whole kind of story of Jeff, were you always in Minnesota?
I've other than the periods of time where I was living overseas, yeah, I've always been in Minnesota.
Okay.
Well, no, I take that back. I was in Illinois for a couple of years and Iowa for a couple of years, but that was back in the 90s. Otherwise, I've been able to do all of this either remotely or
Right.
but I've been in Minnesota. This is my home. We've got my wife and we've now got 4 kids, so we're firmly entrenched here in the state.
Got it. Sorry. Okay, so where Otsuka did the early investments in, like, I think you and I have talked about this, like some of the, the Proteus, and didn't they, or no?
Yeah, they acquired they were an investor in Proteus, and then they acquired the assets. That was before I joined.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a sort of
Early.
an early foray into digital, and then they had the deal with Click. And then we invested in, let's see, Curio Digital Therapeutics, We Therapeutics, Mindful Mamas Club, a company called HealthRHYTHMS. So we had a number of investments that we made in that space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Otsuka, I can't keep up. It's mental health focused very much, right? Just broadly speaking, or like as a main primary revenue source from a prescription perspective, or no?
From a prescription perspective, they also have a drug in ADPKD, which is a rare kidney disease that was a blockbuster drug. I think it just came off patent. But so I would say mental health and rare disease are the 2 areas for the pharmaceutical group. If you look globally at Otsuka, they have, I don't know, 160 entities across the globe in medical device, pharma. They own things like Nature Made Vitamins here in the US. They have a big menopause brand for vitamins. They own Pocari Sweat, sort of a hydration drink. I mean, it's a truly diversified global organization.
Okay.
And with digital health, we ended up spinning that out of the pharma company and set it up as a standalone entity about a year and a half ago. And so with a focus on really thinking about the digital health experience, offering Rejoin, offering some other products in some other disease spaces. But that was sort of the there were some, I think it made it easier for us to operate and use data when we got out of the pharma umbrella. It really created a little more opportunity.
Right. It's interesting, right? Because we've talked about to a number of people on this show, and of course, the real shot of digital health bars around, for pharmaceutical, again, core revenue stream is the molecule. And so, and I still feel to a certain extent, even today, it's really a drug plus game. I mean, if you think about even how Click is positioned, even their messaging now, right? It just super interesting to me, like the standalone concept of a digital therapy or et cetera. I don't know, unless you're earning, 100 million plus on that software intervention, it's just not interesting. Is that your still an observation? Like it is about drug plus, or you guys were looking at it differently? Just curious.
Yeah, I think that, well, it's an interesting question because the label for Rejoin was adjunctive to traditional therapy, and so it was recognized in that study and in the FDA filing that if this was meant to be additive, and I think that's a model that a lot of digital health are looking at. I mean, there's so much power in the molecule.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you can look at all of the companies that have tried to do digital weight loss and behavior change. Nothing had the impact that GLP-1s and GIPs have had. I mean, the molecule makes a huge difference in changing chemistry, and I think that combination piece is going to be.
That's why people say it's the easy pill, literally, right? I mean, again,
Yep. And so I think that I think that is still going to be that's how digital will ultimately be additive to pharma company P&Ls is likely in combination. I mean, there could be some things that are standalone, but I think that's not the model that likely.
It's what's paid for, right?
Exactly. I mean, the early DTX companies were trying to innovate against all kinds of roadblocks in reimbursement and behavior, in patient engagement, physician education, all of those things. Some of those have now, I think, been solved, or there are at least tailwinds.
Right.
It still now comes down to will the patient download it and use it? And if it's used in combination with a drug, if the physician says, hey, I'm giving you this, but you got to download this, that's a conversation that fits into the model. And that likely fits into a reimbursement model also, where, okay, we're going to reimburse for the drug, and there's a digital component that goes with it that improves adherence and is additive. That to me still feels like that's the way that a lot of this use the tailwinds.
If you think about just healthcare to kind of build on this, and I still remember this was like a meetup that we hosted back in Amsterdam, and somebody presented a slide. This was over a decade ago, and saying, look, if I'm a consumer app, right, I got to convince the app store to publish me, right, to accept me. And then it's, one consumer at a time, and they either download and buy it or not. In healthcare, to get anything out there, and I forget for which indication, but they literally showed a map of like, here's the 37 stakeholders I need to convince to get something in the patient's hands, where the patient, right? And so I think that's part of the, I think disillusionment of a lot of entrepreneurs in healthcare. It's really, really, really freaking hard, right? Because you got to do the stakeholder management and convince everybody and their mother. So
the sheer, I was reflecting on this, say, versus the company I have now, where it's like, okay, something cost you 10 grand, we can do it for 3, do you want it? Right. So then you get into a yes, if it's as good as what the 10 grand was. So you get into a quality discussion or capabilities or where you want to be, right? And then I was thinking about the challenge, say, with Health Beacon, like going all the way, the sophistication in the supply chain. We were building hardware, we're going from, plastics in China to smelting in Dublin to ships to the US. and then the work starts, right? And then to send Pfizer a bill for $30,
Right.
Like we just move the world.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's not as easy as build an app, put the app out, and people download it and use it and magically you have an ROI. If only it were that easy, but it's a very different road.
So the big news is now I saw the announcement on LinkedIn that you're now at, and I can see your domain name here on the back of your name here. So what happened now? Where are you now?
So I had a great opportunity to rejoin part of the team that I worked with at UnitedHealth Group in that R&D team. So I've joined an AI-enabled biotech platform that's focused on oncology drug rescue and target discovery. So we're very specifically focused on, we have some interesting data suites using some single-cell genomic analysis and some really great clinical data. We've got 2 rescue candidates, one that's already in phase 2 trial, and
RefinedScience.
Yes, I'm sorry. RefinedScience is the name of the company. Thank you. The company's RefinedScience. It's a very apt name for the company. That's exactly what we're trying to do. The genesis of it was back it was a joint venture between UnitedHealth Group and UC Health and the Colorado University Innovations team. And so we're a small team, but we're doing some really great work. We're starting in in blood cancers. We'll eventually move into solid tumor, and then hopefully work even more broadly than that.
In cancer.
In cancer, we're going to look at some other spaces also. Yeah.
Okay.
The board meetings next week to get some approvals on those things and make sure that we're all aligned.
But the company's been around. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah. The company's been around for a few years. The funding to date has come from those strategic partners from Colorado, and offices are in Denver. I'm still in Minnesota. A bunch of the teams here, but it's really I want to be sort of all in on practical application of AI right now. Otsuka was a great organization and a great team. This was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Cancer has impacted my family, like it's impacted many families, and the chance to really try to make a difference in bringing some drugs to market that can extend life and potentially be curative in some disease spaces that are really don't have great outcomes. That's where I want to spend the next part of my career. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the prevalence of all kinds of different cancers is getting higher, and in the earlier age groups as well, right? And so, And are you then taking, so it's discovery? I'm just trying to understand.
I would say it's where we are right now is drug rescue. So we have a team of really amazing clinicians who are deep experts in particularly in AML and in some of these blood cancers, and we have an amazing world-class data science team. They have put together a data set that has research grade site-seq and flow cytometry, and they're able to combine that with the clinical outcomes in the really deep, rich clinical data set, and test their hypotheses around different drugs and different drug targets that might make sense. And then we'll go ideally find somebody that has tried that drug or has manufactured it. It maybe didn't work for whatever reason. Maybe it was in a different condition or different dosing, and we'll bring that in, license it in, and run it through a trial and see if it works. We think that there's a lot that our data set can do to really de-risk this. This is week 3, so my learning curve has been amazing.
You got a good command.
I'll
I see this team coming out.
Me if I get
No. I mean,
I've learned a vocabulary that I didn't know a month ago, and that's a lot of fun. I think it's exciting to take all of these data sets and really try and do some practical application of this to sort of make a real world impact in how drugs are developed. We were looking at some data last week. Under 5% of oncology drugs actually make it from the bench to commercialization. Other disease categories are much higher, but oncology is really difficult. If we can move the needle on that in any reasonable way, and it will allow drugs to come to market for the hardest and rarest of cancers, where people aren't really putting there isn't as big of an ROI because the upfront investment is so big that if we can bring that down in some meaningful way, we think there's a great opportunity here to make an impact.
And when is candidates kind of not on the market yet, but kind of you're kind of 5 years, 10 years, kind of Japanese patient style horizons or what?
I think we hope to do this a lot faster than that. I think that's part of our model, is that things that may in the past have taken a year, we think we can do in a matter of months. And I don't want to over promise, but I do think that the way that we're using data and combining that data with KOLs and really smart people, and there are some other companies that are doing similar things, maybe not in exactly the same disease space we are, but I think that's a model that is going to really speed up discovery. It's going to speed up the ability to identify drug targets. There are some other modalities out there that I think are going to be really interesting in the future. So I'm excited about it. Like I said, I'm only 3 weeks in, but we've got it's a great time to be in this space. I think
100%.
The technology wasn't there 5 or 8 years ago to do this stuff, and we're at the right time right now.
And also just even from a prevalence perspective we discussed, right? I mean, I don't remember the exact stats, but I think just by like organ base, there's like 200 plus cancers. And then with like variants, there's, some researchers go as high as like thousands, like 2,000-3,000, right? So there's a lot of work to be done, right? A lot of people to be saved or lives extended. So it's it's an amazing.
And I sort of had an epiphany in this last week, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I was reading something and it talked about that, or with all of the investments happening in longevity, when lifespans extend, and if they extend meaningfully, if they extend 10 or 20 or 30 years, the chances that people will develop cancers with an extended lifespan, that risk goes way up. And so cancer, unfortunately, is going to be a growth market. More and more people as they live to be into their hundreds or 120s and beyond, they will unfortunately develop cancers, and we're going to need more really rock solid treatments.
And the goal is at the least to manage any and all of them just as any other chronic disease, right? And just so at the least.
I would hope so. And I think in so many cancers, and a lot of us have probably observed this with loved ones, the treatment is as difficult and oftentimes more difficult than the disease. The chemo and what it does to the side effects from treatments are ideally new treatments can minimize that. They can really target the disease cells and not cause all of the issues that it causes for other systems in the body.
100%.
Exactly. Well, on that note, let's go to Jim's famous question.
Oh yeah,
this is the toughest one of them all.
I'm ready.
First of all, this is going to be a little bit of an unusual one, and I know maybe you've listened to this before, but there's a big reunion for all the Russian study Minnesota majors that have gone on to be successful. So there's this big healthcare conference, but it's not happening in Minnesota. It's happening in Barcelona. So I know it's a city.
I like it.
We know it's a city that you live.
I love Barcelona. Yes.
Sorry. So I want you to get a happy place. So there's this big event going on, and you get this, lovely invitation in your email and your new RefinedScience.com logo. And at this stage now, we're 10 years into the future, and RefinedScience is tackling cancer after cancer, extending people's lives, making it more comfortable to the process. You're feeling absolutely fantastic at it. But people are asking you to not speak on that, but they want you to talk about insurance underwriting and designing health stores, and technical stores. And they want you to talk about what it's like to be a Russian-speaking, digital health investor. So there's a broad topic that you're going. So you go up and you give this amazing, amazing talk, and you're walking through, and you're going through that. And just as you're doing it, people are there's Japanese people in the audience, Russian, Spanish speakers, and they're all getting translated on their headphones. Some of the people in the audience are 120, 130 years of age because of the work that you're doing. Anyways, this one young man that sits in the corner, and he comes running up to you, handsome guy, comes running up to you after the end of the talk, and he says, Mr. Weness, Jeff, I've been following you your whole career. You don't understand. I became impassioned about healthcare because my parents were able to kind of do their jobs bedside from the Geek Squad team that I heard you helped bring into the children's. I'm from Minnesota, and I saw that. So I went and I became a member of the Geek Squad. And then I actually studied abroad, and I studied and learned Russian abroad. Then I went in and got involved in digital healthcare. And then, but then I took a career twist, and I started doing underwriting insurance underwriting, that I went back into this in my career, and I followed you all there. And now I'm about to start my own first digital healthcare company, working for a giant Japanese conglomerate. And he looks at you and he said, "What's the one piece of advice that you would give that young version of yourself?"
The one piece of advice is listen really carefully to so that you can really understand what problem you're trying to solve for, and think about it. Think deeply about what it is that someone is telling you about what the problem is that they're experiencing, and go to first principles of how you solve that. And if you keep that as your anchor, you will find a way for your business to be successful, because you will be providing value to someone that is real, and if it's a problem for one person, it's likely a problem for a lot of people. And just really focus on that element, and it's highly likely that everything else will fall into place.
Amazing.
Love it. Listen deeply.
Listen deeply. Exactly.
Listen deeply and ask a lot of questions. Yeah.
Jeff, thank you for joining us. And it was a pleasure. Can't wait to see you again and all the amazing stuff that you'll do with RefinedScience. And for all of our listeners and viewers, hit subscribe, pass it on, and see you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.